Welcome to The Outlet, an OTG production.
Welcome to the NBA Outlet, presented by OTGBasketball.com. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me tonight, Kory Waldron. What's up, Kory?
How you doing, Nick? Thanks for having me on.
No problem, Kory. Tonight we're going to talk about every team and every free agent they signed. So to get it started, we'll talk about the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors re-signed DeMar DeRozan, 5 years, $146 million. They still have a need at power forward. Do you think the Raptors are going to make another move? What do you think of DeRozan?
Well, DeRozan was – you had to keep DeRozan. That team falls way down in the Eastern Conference without DeRozan. They lost Biyombo. I'm pretty sure they were one of the top teams, and they're running for Ryan Anderson. They lost out on him. I'm not really sure if there's any big power forwards left out there. I think David West might be a free agent. So you might have to go with somebody a little bit older. But and they're going to remain where they are for the most part. Hopefully DeMar Carroll can stay healthy. But, keeping DeRozan was vital for them.
Yeah, like you said, I think they were going to keep DeRozan. If that's one free agent I felt 100% confident it was DeRozan. He was calling Kyle Lowry every day when Lowry was a free agent, so I felt like he kind of owed it to him to re-sign. But you mentioned they're in the Ryan Anderson sweepstakes. They also were really interested in Pau Gasol, but they didn't get him either. Funny you say it, I think David West would be a pretty good fit, give him a veteran presence. That power forward spot has been tough for them this whole season, and they might have to look to a trade to upgrade. Next team in the Atlantic Division, we'll talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. The Sixers have been active. They've been trying to sign guys. I think they've just been striking out, but they did sign Jared Bayless for 3 years, $27 million, and Sergio Rodriguez for 1 year, $8 million. What do you think?
I like Bayless. That's a pretty good sign. They needed a veteran point guard to help run that show with all the young centers and power forward and Ben Simmons now. They could use a veteran point guard to help lead that team.
Yeah, same thing with Sergio Rodriguez. He used to play in the NBA, then he went back over and played internationally. Great passer, get everybody involved. Good to kind of set the young kids up. Same thing with Bayless. He's a little bit more of a scorer, but he gives them somebody who can handle the ball. A veteran presence, something they definitely need. I'm a big believer in that, you can't just put young guys out there and not have any veterans to kind of lead the way. It's a little bit better if guys can at least be competitive in games and somebody to guide them. So I think this will actually really help Philadelphia develop players a little bit faster. But another team in the Atlantic Division, they made a big splash, and they needed to. That was the Boston Celtics, signing Al Horford, 4 years, $113 million. Big move. I really like it. What do you think?
I'm a big Florida Gator guy. Let me get that little Gator chomp to Al Horford going to Boston. The man got paid, took less money that the Hawks offered him. They needed – I think their top three targets were Dwight, Howard, Al Horford, and Kevin Durant. And you got one of the three. But, they still have a lot of cap space next year coming up. They still have a lot of assets that they could make a trade if they wanted to. They set themselves up pretty well. They definitely improved going into this next season.
I think Brad Stevens and Al Horford will be a great fit together. Al Horford's got a high basketball IQ. He'll give them a presence inside. He's a great defender. I think it'll really help Boston. They're still probably that one piece away. Like you said, they have a ton of assets. They got out the cap room next year. So I think they'll be busy looking for a trade all summer long.
I don't honestly believe this, but if Westbrook is on the market and their OKC is trying to move them, Boston is one of the teams that has the assets to try and trade for him.
Yeah, I agree with that. Boston, and I think another team that has a lot of assets would be interesting if they went after Westbrook would be the Denver Nuggets. But on to the next team, the New York Knicks. They've been really busy. They made the trade for D Rose earlier in their offseason. They signed his former teammate, Joakim Noah, 4 years, $72 million. They signed Courtney Lee, 4 years, $50 million. And they signed Brennan Jennings, 1 year, $5 million. And they re-signed Lance Thomas. I'm not sure of the numbers yet, but they did re-sign him. What are your thoughts on the Knicks offseason, and what are expectations for this season for them?
I keep saying this line. They're just like a giant check engine light.
That's good.
You just look at the roster, you're like, can Rose stay healthy? Can Jennings stay healthy? Can Noah stay healthy? Well, can Melo's knees hold up? Because I know he's had some knee issues the last couple of years and shoulder issues. Lance Thomas, I think last season had some knee issues late in the season. So, like, there's just a bunch of guys that, they've been struggling to stay healthy. But if they're healthy, that team arguably could be a solid 5-6 seed in the East and be very competitive.
Yeah, like you said, health is a big issue for this team. These guys are kind of starting to get up there in age, a lot of them, or they've had the injury history. So if I was the Knicks, I'd kind of maybe invest some more money in my training staff this season. But I think they definitely have a good chance to make the playoffs. And if they're healthy, they could give someone a hard first round and maybe even possibly advance. One thing that I think could be an issue for them, though, is overall team speed.
I would agree with that. You have older guys on that roster.
If you look at the starting lineup, no one's really, other than Porzingis, really that crazy athletic at their age right now. So I think that could possibly hurt them. On to the other team in New York, the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets made some moves. They signed former Knicks point guard Jeremy Lin, 3 years, $36 million. Justin Hamilton, 2 years, $6 million. They also signed Trevor Booker from Utah, 3 years, $18 million. And they have an offer sheet out for Tyler Johnson, 4 years, $50 million. The Nets have a lot of work to do. I think this is a good start. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, they hired their assistant coach. I'm drawing a blank on his name, but he was a top assistant, I think, with the Spurs or
Cleveland.
Cleveland. He's decent. That coaching staff, I think you and me talked about this prior. I like Kenny. I listened to the press conference after we had a discussion. I like the direction that he wants to take that team. Sean Marks at the GM position, that was a solid move. They're slowly building after a couple bad years in Brooklyn, and now you have the Brooklyn show with Linsanity joining. So I hope they get Tyler Johnson as well because he played pretty well last year until he had that season-ending shoulder surgery. But they're up and coming. Hollis Jr., Hollis Jefferson, and all them. They could be decent a couple years down the line here.
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's a rebuild here. Sean Marks is doing great. They're getting good deals, and more importantly, they're getting good guys. They want to build a strong locker room. They want to build a strong culture. This team they'll play hard. Kenny Atkinson wants a team that's going to play hard. He's going to work hard to develop the young guys they have and the young guys they sign. Another guy I'd like to see him go after would be Alan Crabb. I'm just worried about Portland matching because then you're going to tie up that money and you'll probably lose out on all other possible free agents. So it's a weird situation, but I think the Nets are in the right direction. Slowly but surely, they're getting better.
That's what's so scary, too, about restricted free agents. I know the Dallas Mavericks are weary about Harrison Barnes. And, the Nets are in a similar position with Alan Crabb. You put all that money towards one player, and if you miss out, you kind of screw yourself.
Yeah. Luckily, in the Tyler Johnson situation, the Heat really already have a lot of money tied up in the third and fourth year, which hurts them. So I think they'll get him. But like you said, the Crabb situation, But on to the next division, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. They haven't signed anybody. J.R. Smith's a free agent. LeBron's technically a free agent, but he's coming back. So they don't have any cap space. They're tied up. Do you think they're going to do anything? Maybe a few vet minimums?
They're tough. They're in a bad position. I wasn't aware of their cap space until you informed me. Yeah, that's always the problem when you go out and get these superstars and give them max deals. You tie up all your money. It was funny. They could have matched Dellavedova, and LeBron already said goodbye on Twitter. So pretty much say Dellavedova ain't coming back. They still got Mo Williams though. You still got Shumpert. I guess Jefferson will probably come back for their veteran minimum if he doesn't retire after all. I mean, there's the off and on rumors. Is Kevin Love gonna stay? Is he gonna go? I mean, if he goes, he might free up some space. But I don't even see them being able to make a deal anytime this week to begin with.
Yeah, I don't see them really making any moves, and they really don't have to. I mean, they're really our best shot at beating that super team out west that we'll talk about later. But on to the next team, we'll talk about the Detroit Pistons. They've had a pretty solid offseason. They re-signed their big man, Andre Drummond. Obviously, they're going to re-sign him, most important player on that team right now. They added some depth. They signed Ish Smith, 3 years, $18 million. John Lear, 4 years, $42 million. What do you think of these moves?
I mean, that John Lear contract is just laughable. I can't believe he got 42 mil, but the cap space is what it is, so you got to pay the players. But locking up Drummond, of course, that was solid. I mean, they're in a very good position. I know they wanted Ryan Anderson, but they ended up not being able to have enough money or whatever to grab him. But they made the trade for Tobias Harris in the middle of last season. They still got Reggie. Colwell Pope, they didn't re-sign him yet, right?
I think he's under contract. If he isn't,
Okay.
then yeah, I think he's under contract. But this team, like you said, they got a good amount of young players, and I think there's a potential to get better. They added some depth. They didn't sign Ryan Anderson, but he got a crazy amount of money. I know Ish Smith, I feel like that's actually a pretty good deal on him. Lear, it's tough to say. It's almost weird because no one's getting overpaid in a sense because how much the cap's jumped. I mean, there's a few guys, but it's crazy how much money's out there. But hey, it's good for the NBA players, take care of their families. It's better than the owners getting all the money, in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah, so but off to Chicago, the Bulls, they've had a rough offseason. They lost Derrick Rose. They're off Joakim Noah, two faces you're used to seeing in Chicago. And they went out and signed a point guard to try to replace Rose. That's Rajon Rondo, 2 years, $28 million. What do you think of that move?
I mean, to be honest, I've liked almost all their moves so far. They got Robin Lopez in that trade. They got Jerian Grant in that trade. Grant's young. I didn't really think he fit in with that triangle offense. So he might have a better time in Chicago. And I mean, the issue with Chicago last year was the fact that sometimes it became too much Rose and Butler. And the thing you can say to Rondo, I mean, even though he's, can be called a type of cancer to the locker room, is he don't try and take over a game scoring wise. He'll pass the ball. So he might be a better facilitator. But losing Pau Gasol to San Antonio, that also hurt.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a weird year for the Bulls. There was a rumor they were trying to move Mike Dunleavy and Taj Gibson as well. I don't know. I haven't heard much about that since the beginning of the offseason. But losing Gasol is going to hurt. Losing Noah and Rose is just a hole they have to fill. I think Robin Lopez is a nice pickup, very underrated player. Rondo, I mean, it just depends what Rondo you're getting, Is he going to be that guy that goes out and gets triple doubles and he plays hard on both ends of the floor? He's going to be the guy that kind of just pads his stats and doesn't really give much effort on the defensive end. So it'll be an interesting season in Chicago, especially with Jimmy Butler over there too. But on to your team, Kory, Indiana Pacers. They made a trade for Jeff Teague and Thaddeus Young earlier in the offseason. Definitely some nice moves, and they just signed Al Jefferson. Let me hear a little bit about your thoughts.
Another rumor out there is Lance Stevenson might be heading back to Indy as well. And even though Stevenson has had a couple bad years, he was really solid in Indy his last 2 years, which is a reunion I'd have no problem with. Larry Bird, Larry Legend, he's been living up to it. I mean, Al Jefferson for 3 years, $30 million. That's an absolute steal with how the cap space has been this offseason. That was a steal. You still have Monte. There's been rumors of them trying to trade Rodney Stuckey and a couple other players for Rudy Gay from Sacramento. I wouldn't be fond of that move personally, but I mean, you had a Jefferson who's going to come off the bench. Thad Young was one of the few players who had 16 and 9 rebounding, scoring and rebounding wise for the Nets last year. Jeff Teague is a great penetrator. Paul George will be another year healthier and better. They made a lot of – they're the clear-cut 2 seed in the East right now. And if healthy, they could be a big threat to Cleveland.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be competing for the top seeds. I don't know if I'll give them the clear-cut 2, but I think they'll definitely have the potential to compete up there. Just they're going to probably have to adjust to the new style a little bit, but I really like the moves. Like you said, Al Jefferson was a steal, especially at the type of money that's being handed out right now. I feel like he easily could have probably had $15 million. But the Thad Young, I think you're going to get a great player, a guy who's going to go out and play hard every night. And Jeff Teague's going to, bring that pace to that team. So they'll definitely give somebody a run for their money in the East this year. It'll be interesting to see how far they go.
And I want to see as well, Paul George is my front runner this upcoming year for MVP. It's a sleeper, but I'm going to say that he's going to have a great year. It's known now.
It's an interesting choice because, somebody's going to win MVP, and 2 of the previous MVPs, Steph Curry and Kevin Durant, I think, almost take themselves out of the voting with the move that happened today. But we'll talk about that more later. Our next team, Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks had, I think they made some pretty good signings. They signed Mirza Teletovic, 3 years, $30 million, and Matthew Dellavedova, 4 years, $38 million. Both international guys. Mirza gives him that long range at the forward position, something this team needs. They need shooting. And Delly's just like an annoying point guard. You know, he was just there to kind of piss off the other team.
Milwaukee's an interesting team because last year, I thought they were going to be a lot better because I think they were at 8 or 7 seed the year before when they lost to the Bulls. They were up and coming. They took a giant step back last year after getting Greg Monroe. They just didn't gel quickly, but they got the Greek Freak. I mean, he's incredible. I guess he's going to be running a lot of point this year. But you got Jabari. Dwayne Wade is meeting with them Wednesday. I mean, does he leave Miami? I mean, I doubt it. But they still have a meeting with Dwayne Wade, which is interesting. If they could be a very scary team because they have a lot of young guys who are still progressing, and they still got guys like Greg Monroe. Like you said, they signed Dellavedova. He'll give them a little edge. It's an interesting time in Milwaukee.
What makes it extra interesting is that they have a lot of young players. The Greek Freak, Chris Middleton, Jabari Parker. They're guys that I think can still get better and add to their game. So I expect them to bounce back from last season because they started to play better at the end of the year. They're currently trying to dump Greg Monroe's contract, I think. But I don't know where they're going to go exactly in the East, but I feel like they'll probably make the playoffs this year. But on to another team that had a busy offseason. They lost a player, they added a player, and that's the Atlanta Hawks. They signed Dwight Howard, 3 years, $70.5 million, and they re-signed Kent Bazemore, 4 years, $70 million. But they lost their big man, Al Horford. What do you think about the Hawks offseason?
Howard's a really good contract. First off, 3 years. That's not not long. So you can kind of get out of it. $70 million. It's really not a bad deal for Howard, and because he's still a double guy for the most part. And he's from Atlanta, so he's back home. He's back east. Maybe he can try and rejuvenate his career out there. He's still got Paul Millsap. I know Paul Millsap has still a lot of trade rumors, even though I think they're not going to trade him. You got Dennis Schroeder now running the point. It's going to be kind of they're changing the culture a little bit in Atlanta after these last 2 seasons when they were known as, the Spurs of the East. They kind of refaced their entire franchise already. But they could be solid still.
Yeah, and one interesting thing in the last 2 years, I think in the playoffs, they got killed inside and they got killed rebounding, so they go out and add Dwight. It depends what version of Dwight they're getting. They're obviously not going to get Orlando Magic Dwight, but if they can get, a version of Dwight that played in Houston at some points, that played on both ends of the floor, he's rebounding, he's finishing that pick and roll that's really deadly when he's running hard and he's running the floor. So, and he's active defensively. It's a presence that they definitely can help that team. Al Horford definitely meant a lot to that team as well. I think just as a presence in the locker room. Kent Bazemore, I thought that was an important re-signing because I think that's a guy who's going to continue to get better. He had his breakout year last year and in the postseason the previous year. So the Hawks, I think, will probably have a chance to definitely make the playoffs again, but losing Horford definitely will hurt. On to a team that's having an interesting offseason as well, the Miami Heat. The Heat have been in a lot of different rumors all over the place. They re-signed their guy, Hassan Whiteside, for 4 years. The money amount's not determined. They're having issues re-signing Dwayne Wade. What do you think of the Wade situation? And do you think the Heat are going to sign anybody in a value?
I hope Chris Bosh plays again. I hope he's healthy. But if you're Miami, Pat Riley, that contract's hurting you right now. You don't even know if he's going to be able to play again. So it hurts having all that money tied up because if he doesn't play this season, that's money that's on the books, and you're missing out on key free agents. They lost Luol Deng, they lost Joe Johnson. I know those guys are a little bit older, but those are still key components of that team to end the season last year. And Wade got insulted by that first offer of what I guess it was like 9 or 10 mil. That was insulting. And then Whiteside's going to have to get paid. I guess he's going to. From what I saw, it might be like he made $980,000 last year, and he might make like $980 million this year or something. A crazy jump up. But Tyler Johnson, I think we talked about earlier, he's probably going to be going to Brooklyn. They're in a weird spot because they were arguably one of the top teams last year, and we all thought they might have been a real threat to Cleveland if they didn't get banged up in the playoffs. But it's tough right now in Miami. I think Wade comes back though, without question.
Yeah, I think Wade definitely comes back. They get that done, but they're definitely in not a good position right now. Like you mentioned, they lost Luol Deng, lost Joe Johnson. A lot of the top free agents are off the market. I mean, they got their guy Whiteside back, but if Bosh doesn't come back, they're definitely going to be hurting early until he comes back. But on to the next team in the division, Charlotte Hornets. They've been active. They were active last offseason. They're active this year. Their number one priority was to re-sign their guy Nick Batum, and they did that. 5 years, $120 million. They signed your guy Roy Hibbert, 1 year, $5 million. They re-signed Marvin Williams, 4 years, $54 million, and they picked up Ramon Sessions, 2 years, $12 million to kind of fill that Jeremy Lin role. What do you think of their offseason so far?
Raymond Sessions, he was a really good pickup. They really needed a backup point guard to losing Lin because Lin was going to get paid. Losing Al Jefferson, I think that actually really hurts because he was a big boy down low for them. Again, God bless them getting Roy Hibbert. I mean, he's only $5 million, but he's straight verticality, defend, rim protector. So I guess they could use him, but he's not going to give you anything on offense. You had to keep Batum. Batum had one of his best seasons since leaving. Well, first year leaving Portland, but he averaged I think like 14, 6, and 6 or something. That's really good. He had a couple triple doubles last year. Really saw Batum grow as a player, I thought. And then Marvin Williams is vital. I was hoping the Nets might have stolen him. I was kind of hoping they were going to get him because I really like his game. He never lived up to being the number one overall pick, but he's a very solid power forward in this league.
Yeah, he gives you a versatile skill set. He kind of fits that new small ball movement. Yeah, I wish the Nets did sign him. Nick Batum, I thought was somebody, if Kevin Durant wasn't a free agent this year, he would have got so much more attention because I feel like he's such a good player all around. He has a versatile skill set, and like you said, he had one of his best seasons. I think that was the best move the Hornets had. Re-signing him and Marvin Williams kind of solidifies that they'll be around what they were last season. The Al Jefferson hurts because they're going to need another big body down low. Hopefully Steve Clifford can get the best out of Roy Hibbert. I don't know if that's possible, but that would be a big presence if they could just get him to be good defensively.
A little side note too. I think Batum being on the Hornets, because he took a lot of pressure off Kemba Walker last season with like managing the ball and doing a little playmaking himself. Because we saw Kemba have one of his best seasons as well. So it was key keeping Batum.
Yeah, and having another player like that, another playmaker that can set up Kemba sometimes and relieves the pressure. I thought that was important, like you said. But the final team in the division, Washington Wizards, they re-signed their guy Bradley Beal, 5 years, $128 million, and they signed Jan Mahinmi, 4 years, $64 million. Mahinmi is a weird signing because he doesn't play power forward, and they have Gortat still. So I was kind of intrigued by that and what they were thinking. What are your thoughts?
I know they really wanted Al Horford too for a while. I'm not really sure about the Mahimi move. I know he's getting the same exact money and contract as Timothy Mozgov, which is kind of funny to me because I thought Mahimi had a really good year and Mozgov not so much, but that's how the league is. But he's a pretty good signing. He really improved this last year, and he's still only 26, 27. Gortat is like 31, 32. I think Nene is 31, 32. So, you're getting a little bit younger in the center position. And then they got Trey Burke the other day for a 2021 second-round draft pick. So now they have their backup point guard to fill the role of Sessions leaving. Beal got crazy stupid money. But, he's a spot-up shooter. And if he's healthy, he's lethal from deep.
Yeah, it would have been a really nice if Al Horford signed with them because Horford's mentioned in the past he'd love to play power forward. And I think he would fit well with this team. He'd kind of elevate Bradley Beal and John Wall's game to another level. But, they had to re-sign Beal even though he's been injury prone. Mahinmi, I just don't know where the playing time's coming from because you can't play – I don't think you can play Gortat Mahinmi at the same time.
No, you couldn't.
So that's kind of weird in my opinion. Unless they're planning on making another move that I don't know about. The Burke, I feel like, that guy needed a change of scenery. he wasn't really getting along with the coaches, I think, in Utah. So maybe that'll help to get a new place. But that wraps it up for the Eastern Conference. I thought overall the East made some great moves. On to the West. We'll start with probably what is the saddest city right now, and that's Oklahoma City. They lost their number one man, Kevin Durant. What are your thoughts about Kevin Durant leaving? We'll talk about the Warriors side of it when we get to the Warriors, but what are your thoughts about KD leaving OKC and the impact it's going to have on that team and Russell Westbrook specifically?
If you look back 4 years ago, this was a team that had Serge Ibaka, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and they were powerhouse. They went to the finals. They made the decision to keep Ibaka over Harden, so Harden left. They traded Ibaka earlier this offseason for Oladipo. They were trying to get faster, and then Durant walked to a team that arguably they should have beat last year in the Western Conference Finals when they were up 3-1. I understand the move from a basketball standpoint, because if you want to win now, the best situation to win is obviously the team that just went 73-9. That's a no-brainer. But I know OKC is hurting, just like when LeBron left Cleveland the first time. We've seen. I'm sure you've seen it. There's numerous jerseys being burnt. There's numerous hate being thrown at Durant. And honestly, if you're an OKC fan, you're listening to this, you're an idiot if you're burning Kevin Durant's jersey. You're just an idiot. There's no need to hate the player. He's got to do his best for him. He gave you 9 great seasons. He gave you a team that was not in the playoffs for a few years, and he made you title contenders for pretty much 7 straight years. So you can't hate the man for having to make the smart career decision.
Yeah, this definitely caught me off guard. I thought he was going to stay in OKC. I just thought he was too tied to the community, too tied to the organization, that he didn't want to leave. And, especially because the Warriors had just beat them, and they could have beaten the Warriors. They kind of didn't play good enough in those last few games to seal the deal. It wasn't that the Warriors, they didn't have a chance to beat them in those last 3 games. They just didn't play well enough to beat them. So I thought it was really interesting that he chose to go to the Warriors. I thought maybe he would go to another team, but I just felt like he wasn't going to go to the Warriors because he wanted to compete against them again and see maybe what him and Westbrook could do. So I'm surprised. I feel for the OKC fans that they lost such a great player, but like you said, don't burn his jersey. I understand being mad at him. I guess technically if I was in your situation, I'd probably be a little bit ticked off. I felt like he would stay, but, don't be disrespectful.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, I saw a video today. Some guy went to Kevin Durant's house and put coward on his for sale sign or something and left the jersey on the front porch. First of all, don't go to the man's house. Let's not go overboard here. Jesus, he's a human, he's a player, and he had to make the basketball decision. And it sucks because I guess now Westbrook has refused to re-sign an extension, so now it's possible that he might get traded. So OKC is in for some very thunder and dark days ahead of them, if that's true. But he still gave you 9 great years, and you just gotta love. He gave you an MVP. You gotta love the player for what he was, even though we can both kind of agree those last 3 games of that Western Conference Finals, he was he was a main factor for the loss, those couple losses.
Yeah. So, one more question, then we'll move on from the Thunder. How do you think this impacts KD's legacy? Is his championships, they're all with Golden State, are they tainted? Is he lesser of a player because he went to this team and, he's playing with other superstars? Did we really ever get to see the best Kevin Durant, or are we going to see the best Kevin Durant?
I wouldn't want to say it's tainted, but at the same time, it's tainted. You know what I'm saying? Because like LeBron, everyone still said, well, he had to go to Miami to win a ring. Then he came home and won a ring for Cleveland. So now, LeBron's slate has been wiped clean. We've kind of forgotten about the decision. And thank God Kevin Durant didn't have a decision of his own, because that would have been 10 times worse. But it is a little bit tainted because you're going with an MVP. You're going with a bunch of champions already. They have 3 arguably superstars already. I'm pretty sure the top 3 in MVP voting last year was Curry, Draymond, and Kevin already. So it doesn't. I don't want to say it taints, but if they win, you expect them to win now. It's not like a surprise if they win. It's like, oh, they're going to win. I can't wait to see the Vegas odds of them winning now.
Yeah, I feel like I don't want to say tainted, but I'll say it has less value.
Yeah.
And it's similar to the LeBron situation, like Kevin Durant would have to do something to make us see that he could do it, not on his own in a sense, but as him as the lead guy. Like, I still feel like he'll probably be, the lead guy in a way, but it won't, the pressure won't be there. You're playing with so many great players, and it's going to be incredibly hard to stop that team. Like you said, they're going to be favored so hard. And like the Heat were, the Warriors are now going to be the villains of the NBA. And it's kind of ironic. LeBron is going to possibly be the only hero in the NBA that could upset this super team. So he had all the hate, and now everybody's kind of looking for LeBron to maybe beat the villains out west in Golden State.
And a little sign up to that: if LeBron somehow, if somehow they get both to the finals again, and we see Cavs Warriors for the 3rd straight year, and LeBron somehow pulls up an upset, I mean, his legacy is then solidified. He'll be on another plateau. He'll be top 2, arguably better than Jordan in a lot of situations if you want to compare who he had to beat. But, and also what's scary about the Warriors is they got all these super talents, but I'll save it for the Warrior talk. I'll save it.
Yeah, save it for the Warriors. But like you said, if LeBron beats this super team, I think that adds more value to his resume. He had an incredible performance coming back 3-1 against a team that won 73 games. So, that right there is a huge achievement. But beating this team would be another huge achievement. But the question is, can this team be beaten? We'll talk about that a little bit later. But let's move on to another team in the West, Portland. They got a few free agents. They went out and signed Evan Turner, 4 years, $70 million. They've been active. They were interested in Pau Gasol. They were interested in Zaza Pachulia. Both guys have been signed. It'll be interesting to see if the Blazers go after Festus Ezeli or, make some sort of move, or they just stick with their restricted free agents.
I mean, Evan Turner got a lot of money. I love hearing these deals. It still blows my mind. I would never expect Evan Turner to get $70 million. But he's good, though. Evan Turner's great because he can play point guard, he can play shooting guard, he can play small forward. And that was one of the things I liked with his first couple of years in Philly is that he was so versatile. I mean, no, he's not living up to where his draft status was, but he's a really good pickup for them, especially when you're rebuilding. CJ McCollum is still young. Lillard is, he's a champ. That boy last year was a beast. He led that after all that criticism for that being a lottery probably and not even going to win 25 games. He led them to playoffs and upset of the Clippers in the first round. That Portland team is still very solid throughout.
Yeah, I think the Turner signing is pretty good. I think they're going to try to keep the restricted guys. It'll be interesting to see what happens because I think they definitely want to upgrade their front court. I think they want to add a veteran presence down low to kind of help that team. They've been connected to Festus Ezeli. Another person maybe I'm not sure if they'd be interested, but a veteran guy would be David West. Give him a physical presence down low. And, they'll probably get better. They have a lot of young guys. CJ and Dame are just going to continue to get better. That's a great backcourt, and Blazers will be fun to watch again this year.
They were on the cusp, too, Nick, of being very scary because I know there was a lot of rumors about them trying to offer Parsons and Howard max deals. And if they had somehow swung that, they would have been a very scary team in the East.
I would have liked them to see him get one of those guys. It would be interesting with them getting Howard. I thought that would be an interesting fit because he would be, a big presence for them down low that they haven't had. They have Mason Plumlee, who's been great for them. He did better than expected last year. He gave him a kind of a playmaker in that front court, but he doesn't have the type of presence that Dwight probably has physically. But on to the next team, Utah Jazz. Not super active, but I thought they made a nice move signing Joe Johnson, 2 years, $22 million. Gives him a veteran presence at the wing position. Somebody can score, kind of knows how to play basketball, someone to kind of come in and calm things down if they're a little out of hand.
I'm interested to see who their starting lineup is. I know they signed Joe Johnson. They traded for George Hill. So now you have, George Hill, Rodney Hood, Hayward, Derek Favors, Gobert, and Johnson. I'm interested to see who starts. I'm guessing Johnson comes off the bench now because he's a little bit older. But, last year they were a surprise going into All-Star Weekend. They had won, 8 of 10 or 8 of 9 going into the break with a couple buzzer beaters. And they were looking like a a possible 8 seed like the last couple of years. They've been letting down the Utah fans. But, they're a team on the rise as well. And George Hill, I was very critical when he was in Indiana. But, he can shoot. I mean, he can't really – he's not a very good playmaker, but he's very good offensively. He plays very good defense. He'll be a nice fit for Utah.
They like to play defense out in Utah. I think that's a nice reason they made the trade for him. Defensively, that'll be a tough team. George Hill, Rodney Hood, Gordon Hayward, Derek Favors, and, Rudy Gobert down low who blocks anything. I think this year's the year they get into the playoffs. And, like we said, Rodney Hood and Gordon Hayward are both on the younger side, and they can continue to get better like a lot of players on this team. It'll be interesting. Dante Exum will come back this year as well. So the Jazz are definitely an upcoming team out west. On to another team that has a lot of young talent. They haven't been super active. The Denver Nuggets, they re-signed their guy, Darrell Arthur. They have the meeting with Dwayne Wade. Or they have the interest in Dwayne Wade. I'm not sure if they have a meeting. But Nuggets I think they're just better off, taking it easy, maybe signing a guy here or there, but letting the young guys they have on that roster develop.
Yeah, they're one of those teams too. Like I keep hearing rumors that like Fareed can be gotten, Gallinari can be got. They have the 2 centers now with I'm not even going to try to say his name, Jovic Nurkic or whatever his name is. I might have said that right actually.
Nurkic.
Nurkic, and then they have the guy with the
Jokic.
They have
Jokic.
they have their names are brutal on that team. They're killing me. But they got Wilson Chandler still, and Will Barton last year. That was a surprise. I didn't see that coming.
But he played well.
Yeah, he really did. They drafted Jamal Murray from Kentucky, I believe, too, right?
Yeah, they did. And that's another piece of young talent they have right there. And I like this team going forward with all the young pieces and the assets they have. They're kind of doing the right things. I think trading for Reed, Chandler, or Gallinari would make sense because by the time the young guys are ready, these guys will probably be past their prime, and getting value for them now makes sense.
Especially because Gallinari, I don't think he's played a full season in at least 3-4 years.
Yeah. It's tough, too, because Gallinari's had some great moments during these past 2 seasons, but then he's had to deal with injuries.
Yeah, he's such a pure shooter. He's got such a nice stroke.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe the team – it's another interesting thing about free agency will be the salary cap because I think so many teams are going to have extra cap space. So I don't really know what's going to happen. There is a cap floor the teams must get to where the money's just passed around to the rest of the team. So it'll be interesting to see what these guys do to try to get over the cap. Last team in this division, though, we'll go with the T-Wolves. They haven't been that active. I mean, I think they had some interest in Pau Gasol, but I can't remember the other name I heard them interested in. They did try to trade for Jimmy Butler as well. They did, if I'm not mistaken, they signed Cole Aldridge.
I believe they did actually to a kind of stupid.
Okay, I couldn't confirm that, but I was pretty sure they did. But what do you think? I mean, the T-Wolves are kind of like there's no point in really adding Buddy in, maybe some depth, but this team is all about the young guys: Karl-Anthony Towns, Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn. These guys, they need to play. They need to get better. Going forward, this team is really going to be a presence out west. They're probably a year or 2 away still, though.
And Chris Aldridge was signed, Nick, 3 years, $22 million.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he is on the Wolves. I love the Chris Dunn, the draft pick. I love it. I remember watching the draft and watching him fall. I was like, is Thibodeau really gonna get his guy? And it fell perfectly in the line. Because Chris Dunn, he's got that chip on his shoulder. He plays with a lot of grit. He kind of reminds me. I mean, he's not Damian Lillard, but he reminds me kind of like Lillard's like little, swagger on the court. Rubio will probably get moved, I'm guessing, since there's no need to have him and Chris Dunn. But LaVine grew last year. Wiggins got better. Anthony Towns took the NBA by storm for the most part. You got Garnett coming up with veteran presence. I was kind of hoping they were going to get Pau Gasol. I thought that would have been a nice veteran leader as well to help him at the power forward position. But Minnesota's coming. They got some young talent, and you got to like it if you're a Wolf fan.
Yeah, and Tibbs is going to get these guys to play some great defense. So they'll definitely take it up to a next level. It's just the West is so tough. But, they possibly could compete for an 8 seed this year. just with the amount of talent they have. But after the T-Wolves, we're going to talk about the new villains of the NBA, the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors signed Kevin Durant, probably, my opinion, the second best player in the NBA. They got Zaza Pachulia on the cheap. Warriors are looking like the favorites to win next year. This team is stacked. What are your thoughts on the Warriors?
Well, first, I have a little question. If Kevin Durant's the second, who's the first?
LeBron James.
Okay. I just want to make sure. We're on the same page. Jesus. How many basketball do they plan on playing with this year? 2, 3? I mean, Jesus. You got 3 guys who I think all average 20-plus shots, between Clay, Curry, and Durant, or they were close to 20. I mean, they're not – yes, they are the favorites. But I don't want to say they're a lock to win it all because you still have to be able to gel and play. I mean, yes, they've played on Team USA and they have history. And I think Durant can put an ego aside and Curry and Clay. I think they can put their egos aside. But there's still only one basketball. And when you're in crunch time, is Durant going to try and play hero ball? Is Curry going to, be a good enough facilitator? Because he's been questioned at times about that. They don't have a true big man. I know they got Zaza. That was actually a really good signing for $2.3 million. That was great, because especially they had to get rid of Bogut. But they got beat up last year in the playoffs, and they could get beat up again if this is they're going to go with the death lineup all the time. But I mean, 74-8 this year. I don't know.
I mean, this team is going to be deadly. Offensively, yeah, I think they'll need a little bit of adjusting period, but I think the meeting was mostly about egos. And Kevin Durant really wanted to know how he'd fit in with his team, and I think that he can fit in great. It's just going to be so difficult to defend them. You have Curry, you have Clay, and you have Kevin Durant. All 3 lethal shooters. They need a body on them at all times. So helping against the Warriors is going to be close to impossible. And Draymond Green's a great playmaker at the power forward position. And as well, he can get hot from 3. So electing who they go with the 5th guy, they'll probably start Zaza, and Andre Iguodala will get a lot of playing time as well. They're just going to be so tough to defend. I don't think they'll have issues gelling. For some reason, I think maybe they'll adjust a little bit in the beginning, but at the end of the season, I think they'll be fine. And just imagine Kevin Durant taking all the shots that Harrison Barnes missed. And when they flip that ball side to side and it's in the other corner and you have to close out on Kevin Durant, it's a lot more difficult than Harrison Barnes. You know what I mean? So KD is going to give them another element that I didn't even think this team could have.
That's what I was going to say too. Like that team on switches. I mean, if you get a bad mix match on a switch, you got 3 or 4 lethal guys who can probably take you off the dribble. They're going to be very tough to defend. And like you said, if that's Kevin Durant last year in the finals, not Harrison Barnes taking a lot of those shots, he's not missing.
Exactly. And Kevin Durant showed me enough in the playoffs at certain moments that he has the playmaking ability that'll fit great with this team, as well as he had some great moments as a defender in the playoffs last year. He was so long. He was all over the place. He took advantage of his length and had his hands in the pass, a lot of deflection. So defensively, I don't think Kevin Durant's going to hurt them either, just because I think having a lesser role offensively probably will allow him to have more energy defensively. So this team is going to be very fun to watch. I think, like I said, they're going to be the villains of the NBA, so there's going to be a lot of hate for them. They're going to be expected to win 70 games minimum, I think, without question. I know it's a high expectation, but with the roster they have, I think anything less than 70 wins probably be a disappointment. At least for us as fans, for them, all they care about is the championship.
Well, fans, I mean, the Warrior fans quadrupled last time I checked. There's probably a good 5 million, 7 million more fans this year. And your ownership, too, you got to love it. Your jersey sales, you have arguably the top 5 jersey sales in the league between Curry, Thompson, and Durant. And you can even put probably Draymond in the top 10. Yeah,
exactly. So merchandise is going to be going through the roof. I'm sure they'll have some corny T-shirts with all the guys on them and stuff, so they'll make money on that. Another team out west, the Los Angeles Clippers. Clippers, they had a meeting with Durant. Couldn't really pitch him to take lesser money to play with them. They got to re-sign 2 of their guys, Austin Rivers, Jamal Crawford, both on 3-year deals. Initially, they offered Jamal Crawford a bad deal. He wasn't too happy. It looked like he was going to sign elsewhere. They got him to come back. I think the Clippers are kind of in a weird spot, and they're probably not going to be much better than last year, but they're not going to be much worse either, which isn't bad. It's just I don't think they can beat the Warriors.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because Chris Paul is he's now in his prime and late prime, I guess, and he's in a tough spot because that Clippers team, in a lot of years probably would be absolute title contenders without doubt. Between DeAndre and Blake and Crawford and Redick. I mean, it's a very deep team actually, for the most part. But like you said, they're not going to be much better. I mean, Blake might get a little bit better. I guess he's working on a 3-point shot. I saw something about him working on a 3-point shot. So if Blake Griffin's hitting 3-pointers, I mean, I'm probably going to run around and go streaking because that's insane if that man can do that too now. But Jamal Crawford was vital. Jay Crossover needed to be on the Clippers. He's just key to that second unit. And, I mean, I thought Austin Rivers got way too much money, but, Daddy had to make that deal for him.
I mean, I think he probably got maybe a touch, but he was probably going to get the money from somewhere else if it wasn't the Clippers, just with the amount of cap going everywhere.
Yeah.
But on to another team right in that area, Sacramento Kings. They signed Aaron Aflalo, 2 years, $25 million, not a bad deal. Anthony Tolliver, 2 years, $16 million. Don't know why they had another front court guy. And then Mr. Matt Barnes, 2 years, $12 million. So Kings, interesting offseason. I like the Aflalo signing. Not sure about the Tolliver signing. Maybe they just wanted a veteran presence. They don't plan on playing him much, but they did give him $8 million. And Matt Barnes, I mean, he can still play, but he's a little bit wild. And on a team where I don't know if you want anything more wild. Like they did get rid of Rondo, but DeMarcus Cousins doesn't probably need a person like Matt Barnes around.
I'm gonna quote DeMarcus Cousins. Lord, give me strength. I mean, I have no idea what they're doing. I don't have a clue. Their draft was arguably probably I would have gave them like a D- for draft wise. They drafted Scal, Labisserie or whatever from Kentucky. They got Malachi Richardson in a trade. I actually like him as shooting guard, but he's kind of young. He'll need a lot of time to develop. They got a lot of front court guys. I don't know what they're doing. It's very confusing. And I guess their point guard right now is just Darren Collison, so you don't really have much of a backcourt either. And he's on the market. It's confusing for right now for Kings.
And Darren Collison, I think, has some legal issues, so he could possibly miss some games next season. They need to add depth. And no idea why they keep adding so many front court players. It just doesn't make much sense. But the Kings don't make much sense. Sorry, Sacramento fans. It's probably going to be another rough season. But on to another team right over in California, Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have been pretty busy. They re-signed their guy, Jordan Clarkson. That's a good deal. I think he was under the Arenas rule and the new CBA. So
great deal.
Great deal for him. They re-signed Tariq Black, 2 years, $18.5 million. I mean, not bad. It just gives them some depth. They signed Luol Deng, 4 years, $72 million. Maybe a touch too long for my liking. And then they signed Timothy Mozgov, 4 years, $56 million.
Well, first, Clarkson, that's a great deal. 4 years, $50 million, because I think he's worth a lot more than that. I would have gave him a lot more than that, personally, with how much other players got paid, because he had a very good year, and he's still only 23, 24. And he's a cornerstone for that team. But, that deal gives them some flexibility. I mean, if they wanted to move him, I honestly think if OKC is serious about trading Russell Westbrook, the Lakers are a team that has a lot of young assets with, Russell, Clarkson, Randall. I don't think they trade Ingram, but they have some pieces that they could probably show something that would interest OKC if they really wanted to. But, Luol Deng's going to give that team – like you said earlier about somebody. You need veteran presence. You need veterans on your team. And Luol Deng will give you a nice veteran voice in that locker room. Mozgov, way overpaid. And he was the first free agent signing, which still blows my mind. I've never seen that at midnight. But he'll give you some rim protection. And I'm sure they're going to utilize him a lot better than Cleveland.
Yeah, my mistake on Mozgov, he got 4 years, $64 million. Yeah, but, he probably did get a touch overpaid, but I don't know why the Lakers signed him so fast. He does give the team rebounding, size, shot blocking ability. He's a touch slow, though. So, you're going to want to keep him by the rim. It'll be interesting to see how Luke Walton used him. Probably similar to Bogut, so they'll ask him to set a lot of picks. And if he can set good screens, that really does make a difference. The money's a little high, but, the Lakers have the money to spend. Luol Deng, like you said, he's a great veteran presence. I just don't know where he's going to be at that fourth year of the contract. And getting Clarkson for that type of deal because of the rule is so nice for that team. So Lakers are in a good position. They got a lot of good young players. So another year, they'll take a step forward. I don't think they're probably ready to make the playoffs, but they'll definitely improve on last season.
You'll see 20 wins.
Yeah. All right, on to another team who is in a weird situation as well. They had a meeting with Kevin Durant. That's San Antonio Spurs. The Spurs, Tim Duncan may retire. We don't really know. Mono's coming back. They did get to sign Pau Gasol, which I think is a nice player to add for them. He's a good fit with the Spurs type of playing. So 2 years, $30 million for him, not bad. Interesting to see the Duncan situation. What do you think the Spurs are thinking about this season, especially after Kevin Durant's time with the Warriors?
They don't have a chance, Nick. I don't mean that in a bad way, because they're still going to win probably 60 plus games like last year. But the fact of the matter is that team on paper, they're just not fast enough to keep up with the Warriors. I mean, that's why OKC beat them last year. They're just not fast enough. You got guys like Pau Gasol, and yes, these guys can still play. They can still contribute, but their quickness is a liability. And we saw that last year with Duncan, Ginobili. I mean, they're a step slower, these guys, and they get blown out quite a bit when they're playing a faster team. But I mean, they're still going to be good. They're just not going to be.
This team, what they can use?
What?
Russell Westbrook.
Oh, they could. That'd be beautiful.
I mean, that would be a great matchup with the Warriors, but I mean, that's not going to happen. But, you said it. They're not fast enough. They're not athletic enough. They don't have that, killer at point guard. Tony Parker's, past his prime. Patty Mills gives you some shooting. But, out west, you need to have one of those top-tier guys, it feels like. And the Spurs, like you said, they'll win a ton of games, but beating the Warriors, I don't think it's going to happen. But imagine Westbrook on that team.
They're in that weird they're in that weird phase where you still got the old guys that you don't want to just throw away, but you don't want to really have them anymore. They're just in that we're not rebuilding, we're not contending, we're just gonna be decent for the next couple of years until we can get all the old guys out for new guys.
I would say this though: if the Warriors weren't where they were at, they would probably they'd probably be contending with the team they have. It's just the Warriors are so good.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
Another thing about the Spurs, they're trying to dump Boris Diaw. I think he's on a $7 million contract, but so they have the room to sign Gasol. So watch out for the Boris Diaw trade. But I think I skipped over a team in the last division. My mistake. Sorry, Phoenix Suns. The Suns haven't been super active. They did make one good signing, a guy I wanted, and that's a sign just because he's a good locker room guy, good veteran presence. Jared Dudley, 3 years, $30 million. Solid signing. I think it's a good player to have with all the young players over there.
I'm just going to throw this out there, too. If Jared Dudley's getting $30 million for 3 years and Al Jefferson got $3 million for 3 years, way to go, Larry Bird. But, they're interested in moving, I guess, either Brandon Knight or Bledsoe. I mean, I thought Brandon Knight got way too much money last offseason when they got him.
But now it doesn't look as bad, so.
Yeah. But, they're going to have to move a point guard, I believe, because Devin Booker has kind of solidified himself as he's going to be a big-time player in the next couple of years here. He's only 19. He already has a very nice deep stroke. It's a struggle being a Phoenix fan, I'm sure, because the last couple of years, I know they've been right on that cusp of possibly being in the playoffs. They end up, falling short. But last year they were riddled with injuries. But they're not bad. You set the hope that guys like Bledsoe, and if they keep Knight, they stay healthy. But I'm sure one of those guys will be moved at some point.
I think they'll probably move Tyson Chandler too.
I forgot to add Chandler. That was
a weird sign. They took a big risk trying to sign Chandler so they could get Aldridge, and it almost worked, but it didn't. So and then they were stuck with that contract. I think it's another year the Suns aren't going to make the playoffs. I don't mind the Dudley signing at all. I think it's fine. There's no point in spending a ton of money if you don't think you're going to compete. And, the Suns, I don't think are going to compete for a playoff spot this year unless, Bledsoe and Knight play out of their mind and they're both 100% healthy. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this year, what moves they make, and how the players develop on that team. On to the Dallas Mavericks, a team that I feel like strikes out in free agency a lot. You know, they had interest in Dwight Howard. They didn't get him. They had interest in Hassan Whiteside. They didn't get him. You know, they had interest in a lot of guys, and they didn't get him. So they ended up re-signing their guy, Darren Williams, 1 year, $10 million, not a bad contract at all. Dwight Powell, 4 years, $37 million. They really invested a lot of money in him. And they signed Seth Curry, 2 years, $6 million, and they maxed out Harrison Barnes for 4 years. So they committed a lot to Barnes. They kind of missed out on it. Barnes really had a tough performance in the NBA Finals. It'll be interesting to see how he does on this team. I mean, so you're likely to see – oh, and they made a trade for Andrew Bogut as well. Let me not forget that. So the starting line will probably be something like Darren Williams, Wesley Matthews, Harrison Barnes, Dirk, who, you know, I feel like he's definitely going to resign, and Andrew Bogut. Maybe they'll probably compete for a low playoff seed, but nothing more than a first-round exit for this team, most likely.
And I mean, that's a decent starting five too in the West. You know, with all that talent, it's not a bad starting five. And it's a shame because I know Dallas really wanted Darren Williams 5 years ago. They just got him 5 years too late with his broken down ankles and stuff. But
yeah.
I know Wesley Matthews too has been in some trade talks. Not being able to re-sign Chandler Parsons, that hurt. And like you said, Dirk, he's definitely not going anywhere. He's going to stay with the Mavs. Bogut gives you rim protection. Barnes, $94 million for a role player, but you know, it's time. It's his time now. We'll get to see what kind of Harrison Barnes is within the next year or two on this Maverick squad. But you know, Mark Cuban, like you said, he just keeps striking out. Yes, he won a title, and they haven't really been able to get a solid team since then.
They've been trying to do things. They've been trying to rebuild on the run or retool on the run, and that's really hurt the team. But another team in this division, Memphis, they're pretty active. Re-signed their guy Mike Conley, 5 years, $153 million, a ton of cash. They're able to sign Chandler Parsons, 4 years, $94 million. So it should be a good year for the Grizzlies. As always, if they can stay healthy, I think Parsons gives them another element on the wing that they've been lacking for years.
I like the Parsons deal. You know, and also Mike Conley's getting a lot of hate for his contract. That boy is extremely underrated. Extremely underrated. He gives you a solid 17 points a game. He gives you 7 or 8 assists. And he's a great playmaker. He plays solid defense. He's a floor general at its T. And, you know, he got $153 million. So, like, yes, it's eye-popping. You're going to go highest paid player in the NBA history is Mike Conley. But that guy is vital to that Memphis squad. And even though I believe that still they're not a very good team, because I don't think they're built to play in the new style of basketball. I think Gasol a little bit older and Randolph. But, I mean, they've made some nice moves, and they're definitely going to be a decent team, better than last year if they stay healthy.
Well, I think the one thing about the Parsons contract, I do like him as a player, but his health giving him that much money is kind of scary just because he's missed substantial time the last 2 years.
Right.
And Conley, you know, people complain about the contract, but it's not like the Grizzlies were the only team willing to max him out. You know, he had a lot of interest across the league, so I'm sure somebody would have surely paid him if it wasn't the Grizzlies. I think they'll probably be in the bottom, you know, competing for one of those bottom playoff spots. I don't see them competing in the West. First-round knockouts probably likely. On to another team that made some interesting moves and really tried to boost that offense up, and that's the Houston Rockets. They signed Eric Gordon, 4 years, $53 million. They signed a power forward, stretch forward, Ryan Anderson, 4 years, $80 million. That's a lot of shooting to a team that has a lot of offensive firepower. It's pretty obvious what they're going to be doing with Mike D'Antoni, and that's going to be scoring a lot of the basketball. Defense, don't know much about that, especially adding Ryan Anderson. So the Rockets will be a fun team to watch. How good they will be, I have really no idea. I know they'll make the playoffs, I think, but I don't know how good they'll be. It'll be really fun to watch and see how the team develops along the year.
Yeah, I believe I saw a stat. It's just between Eric Gordon and Ryan Anderson, they're making like $166 million combined, and they've missed like 133 games the last like 2 years or 3 years, for combined as well, which is scary. But I'm pretty sure Eric Gordon played with D'Antoni in Phoenix earlier in his career, so they have a relationship. And, you know, Eric Gordon, if he's healthy, he's a very good scorer. He's had some very nice moments down in New Orleans when he was down there for a couple of years. You know, Anderson, he's another guy that I thought he'd be a great fit for a lot of teams in the new stretch 4 era. But they got rid of Howard, so now you've finally moved on from that. And I think, like you said, that team's going to score a lot of points.
Yeah, they'll be fun to watch. They'll miss Howard inside some points, but I think they're happy with Clint Capella. And Ryan Anderson will get plenty of open threes with James Harden playmaking. Same thing for Gordon. I think he'll help relieve the pressure. If they both can stay healthy, this team will easily put up 100, probably 100-plus points every single night. So we'll watch the Rockets this year. Another team defense will not be there, which will make them a fun team to watch because the other team will score a lot too. Yeah. But let's go to the New Orleans Pelicans. They signed a Solomon Hill, 4 years, $52 million. Etuan Moore, 4 years, $34 million. I mean, these aren't sexy signings, but these are good guys. They added some depth at places that they needed some players.
Yeah, they're definitely not sexy, Nick. Not sexy signings. But Solomon Hill, it's crazy because if you look at his year, 58 games into the season, he might not have even had an NBA career following the end of last season. And then with about 15 games left, all of a sudden he started hitting threes. He just missed the game winner against the Raptors. Broke my damn heart. But he played really well. And I guess he played a lot of power forward for the Pacers. And he's a small forward, but he's fast. And I guess that means the Pelicans are going to try and go small. But, they made a couple solid moves. You got to hope that Jay Rue can stay healthy and Tyreek Evans. And Anthony Davis will be healthy. And that man is already, fear the brow. I mean, it's a freak. So hopefully the Pelicans just stay healthy.
Yeah, that's a big issue for them. I like these signings. I think Solomon Hill gives them something on the wing, an athletic player. And if he can hit the three-point shot, it makes a big difference. Etuan Moore actually has some nice play for Chicago. I know a lot of fans are upset they didn't re-sign him. So that's another player, gives them some depth in the guard area. But I think the Pelicans, their biggest issue will be the health of Anthony Davis. And if he can become that top 5 player, top 3 player that we all want him to be.
It still blows my mind that he played 2 years with a torn labrum and shoulder. I remember reading that report, and I'm still mind blown that man somehow played 2 full seasons with a torn labrum. So if he can come back even 80% healthy, because since he already played 2 years with a torn labrum, this boy is already big time if he's healthy.
Yeah, that'll be huge. But that wraps it up. I'm sure there's plenty of free agents to be signed. It's probably like 60-plus free agents have been signed so far, and tons and tons and tons of money have been thrown out of there. But that wraps it up, and enjoy the rest. Thank you, Kory, for hopping on, and thanks, everybody, for listening.